We're super excited. It was a full, last time we raced was down here. And it was like, I think a year yesterday. I think we raced March 3rd last year. So yeah, we're excited to be down. We're excited to be like in a place, it's like 70 outside right now. I know it's nice in Ipsy, but we had a good practice this morning. We got a couple more practices before we race on Saturday morning. But everyone's really excited. Like they're pretty pumped to be down here and ready to go racing. The nice part is this is a shortened training trip comparatively. We're only doing 2 days of practice as opposed to usually we do about 7 before we race. And it's a really, really difficult week. And then we go try and race after a pretty dense training volume that week. So this week it's going to be a little bit lighter. So I'm really excited to see what happens with us being a little fresh. And a little bit more prepped to go. Obviously, we'll see because we have less water time. So there's some trade-offs. But I really, Alabama was just ranked in the preseason poll at 16. So, start out big and go from there. Well, we had a couple people from last year's 1V who decided not to return, and for a 5th year. So we've got some changes. I mean, the exciting thing is we're still pretty young. Like I was looking at the people we kind of had out in the mock 1V today, and I think only one of them is not going to return or is not planning on returning next year. Most of them have 3 to 4 years of eligibility left. So that's really exciting. Obviously, as we do a little more fine tuning in the next couple days, that might change. Some of the more experienced people might go in, but it's pretty exciting to have that level of depth and young depth that we're really starting to form, and I think that's going to carry us well for the next 4 or 5 years. We kind of have a little bit of a mixed bag. Eve Melody, who's been our 1V coxswain for 3 years now, will be probably coxing the 1V this weekend, but then behind her are 2 freshmen. So it's pretty exciting because we have a lot of young, talented athletes that are pushing people to be better, and that's only going to make us fast. So I'm excited to see what happens with them this weekend and how they're handling their first collegiate race, and then obviously making sure Eve goes out with her last year being her most competitive. I think that's going to be good for everybody. So for us this weekend, the race that counts is the 2,000 meter. That we're doing those first. But because it's a training trip and it's early in the season, we're looking to get more time on the water. We're then going to kind of do 3, we'll call them exhibitions or scrimmage races after the main race, just to get a little more ability to race and not. We're going to do some rate caps to kind of control the intensity of it a little bit and make sure our athletes aren't overtaxing themselves too early in the season, but also get some more water time and some more competition with another team. That's going to be huge for both of us, Alabama and us, because it just gives you another few times to line up and get a little more experience, particularly for our younger athletes. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge boon to us in that we'll have other teams coming to us. We don't have to travel. And then as we kind of build up Ford Lake as a venue for rowing, it's getting those tester races in so then we can go for bigger and bigger events after that. Obviously, racing at home, bringing a Big Ten team to us is huge. Those are all going to be things that are going to give us the ability to think bigger than just our program. That it's time to start thinking about being in the top 25, not being just hoping to do well at CAAs. We've got places we want to go, and I think having a race course and trying to get bigger teams and faster teams to come and race us here is going to give us a lot of experience we need to make the next jump in speed. Dual racing's, it's pretty common in our sport. There's it just depends on how you want to go through your schedule. Dual racing ends up being a lot more like a basketball game in that it's one-on-one, whereas multi-boat races, where you finish and the points you accumulate are so important to the overall. Like you can have a boat that does really well and a boat that doesn't do as well and win, versus when you're in a dual race, it's just you and the other team. So it's a little more head to head, but it has a little bit less fluidity in how the results come out throughout the day. But I think it's going to be good because it also kind of limits the chances you feel like you have. If you have a heat and a semi and a final, you feel like you have multiple chances. Whereas in our conference championship, it's finals only. So by doing these dual races, it does put that kind of pressure on. You have to perform at the time. That might be a little bit missing from the heat semis finals. Like, oh, we had a good heat, we didn't win it, but we did enough to qualify for semis, is different than like showing up, racing head to head and having to win to have that carry on as a result. I mean, for us, it's all the work we've done inside, outside, the rules we've had to follow to make sure everyone's safe and healthy, battling the outside things of uncertainty, because once you have a season taken away, like we had last year, it always feels like it's hanging over you from then on. And I think we're finally getting to a point where it's still there and it will always be there now, but we can feel like we have a hold on it and can succeed no matter what happens. Like that's the big thing I think we've changed in the last couple of weeks is, yeah, it's still hanging there. You know, we're not a year out yet. We're still 8 days away from a year, but whatever comes at us, we can handle and we'll be better and rise above.